All right. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Today is March the 4th, which sounds like an imperative sentence, and it kind of is, as today is March 4th, Do Something Day. Lucky for you, you already are doing something. You're here with us. We're going to be talking about solar plus storage for new home construction. A new platform called SolarEdge Nexis addresses the three biggest barriers that have prevented builders from confidently including solar and storage: installation complexity, insurance concerns, and upfront cost anxiety. Now, our discussion today will be facilitated by Matt Power. He is the editor-in-chief of Green Builder Media. It's largely because of Matt that Green Builder Magazine was named Best Residential Trade Magazine by the National Association of Real Estate Editors for 8 consecutive years. Matt has award-winning, nearly three-decade career reporting on innovation and sustainability in housing. Now, Matt will be joined by two guests, which you see on your screen. Cameron Stewart is a senior technical marketing manager at SolarEdge Technologies. With nearly 21 years in the solar industry, Stewart has progressed from installer and design engineer through utility scale operations to his current role managing SolarEdge's residential storage portfolio and next generation solutions, including that upcoming Nexus platform. Jim Westover is Vice President of Product at SolarEdge Technologies, where he oversees the strategic direction and innovation of residential energy solutions for the North American market. He leads product development and go-to-market strategies for SolarEdge's integrated solar and storage offerings. Now, our webinar is brought to you by SolarEdge. SolarEdge is a visionary leader in smart energy technology, committed to harnessing the power of the sun to create a sustainable future. So SolarEdge's DC optimized technology maximizes energy production and drives innovation in energy storage and EV charging solutions for both residential as well as commercial applications. With a steadfast commitment to innovation and sustainability, SolarEdge is leading the way towards a brighter future. Now, during the course of today's discussion, you can submit questions for our panel. Simply use the Q&A function located in the menu bar at the bottom of the Zoom window. I'll review those questions and pose those to our guests after our discussion, and we may even take some as we go along. Speaking of going along, Matt, you're here to take us away.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Hi, everybody. It's great that you could take a little time out of your day to be with us here. What I like to usually talk about right at the beginning of one of these webinars is the audience, which is you. And we know we have a mixed audience. So some of you are professional builders or architects, appraisers, but we also know that there's people out there who are, building a home or rebuilding a home. So we're going to try to keep the conversation both technical and accessible. So we'll sort of weave in and out of that as we go. So that's why I kind of want to start at the beginning and talk a little bit about inverter technology. So SolarEdge, you may or may not know, is sort of world renowned for their inverter innovation and also solar storage with batteries. So Cameron, let's hand it off to you and have you give us sort of an overview of how inverter technology has changed over the last 10 years. And then you kind of segue in with where is SolarEdge taking us?
Yeah, sure. So as you guys know, and you heard in my bio, I've had a lot of experience in the solar industry. And when we first started installing inverters, we used a single MPPT. And basically all that is, it's a fancy way of saying we find the most ideal point on a voltage and current curve to harness energy. And then it turned into two MPPTs. Man, we really changed the industry there because now instead of one, we had two. SolarEdge has module level MPPTs. So now the industry has shifted to realizing that harvesting and maximizing the energy production of every single solar panel is worth it. Especially with the cost of goods going up, you want to be able to squeeze every little penny out of those solar panels that you can. And so SolarEdge, again, prioritizes maximizing energy on the rooftop from the solar panel at the panel level and funneling that energy down to the ground where the inverters and storage sits. And then kind of within the last 2 years to 4 years, storage has become a big part of any solar system or any PV system because you want to be able to save that energy to use it later in the day.
Right. And Jim, do you want to take us a little on the technical side, a little deeper into what's actually going on inside the in the inverters that's a little different now? Like there's more, it seems to me there's more smart features, right? They're integrating with the house in a more complex way.
Yeah, SolarEdge has been in the battery business, the residential battery business, since the launch of Powerwall 1. So we have, decades worth of experience working with residential batteries, operating residential batteries. This Nexus product is our fourth or fifth generation kind of foray into solar and storage. I think what we're seeing that's become most important for customers is really the efficiency of the whole solar and battery stack. As you're using your batteries to make sure you don't export because the utilities are giving us less and less value for the energy that we do export. People are holding on to that energy and powering their home with it. But home loads are typically pretty low. And so SolarEdge has a really high efficiency inverter at low power. And so we're able to essentially save the customer more money because we're losing less in the transition from that DC energy to the AC energy. And the other thing worth noting, and I'm sure Cam's going to dive into this, but the batteries are DC coupled, and all that really means is solar direct. So solar energy is DC energy. When it comes out of the sky, it's captured in the modules or DC modules. It's stored in the battery as DC energy. For SolarEdge, that's all in one. You can kind of think of it as like one wire or one conduit. Other technologies have some AC coupling and some multiple conversions. So at the end of the day, like we're really just trying to save our customers the most amount of money, give them the most amount of flexibility possible. And yeah, so far it's been a great journey.
So one of the things when you mentioned flexibility, I had mentioned we on our little practice call we did. I put in a solar installation up in Portland, Maine, a few years ago, and I had an inverter, and I remember it was about 12 years ago, but it could only do one thing. It was not like it didn't have an automatic transfer switch in it. For example, I couldn't switch it over if I wanted to. Now, your SolarEdge, like the Nexus line, they're essentially hybrid inverters. Is that correct? They can do all those things, right? They can run you off grid. They can
That's right.
switch you over in a power outage.
Yeah, so a hybrid inverter, just like you said, can grid follow, which is when the grid is on and running. That's what it is natively doing. And then when the grid goes away, we isolate the home's electrical system using a switch of some type. For us, we call it the SolarEdge Nexis Islander. But the Islander isolates the home, and then the inverter is able to grid form. And so it creates its own grid and islands itself and produces energy. So you can have access to your home's energy when the grid is down.
Right. And I think one of the things you're really emphasizing is this ability to size up when you're ready to size up, right? Like with the Solar Nexus system. So you can start at, what is it, like 4.75 kilowatt hours or something? You can start real small,
Yeah,
right? With a
yeah,
small
yeah.
battery.
5 kilowatt hours.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that is like every home is different, every electrical profile is different. You talked about your DC mini splits, or you're in Texas and you have these giant 5-ton air conditioners. So every home's electrical footprint is a little bit different, and the scalability of being able to stack multiple 5 kilowatt hour batteries to suit your home's needs is really incredible. Instead of like these big 10 or 13 and a half or 15 kilowatt hour building blocks. I mean, that is way more energy than you should need for a home in Southern California or in Arizona. So just that scalability goes hand in hand with fitting whatever your customer needs.
Now, and I understand, like I've seen your interface even 10 years ago was pretty good, like your app essentially.
Yeah.
And so, even at that time, you could do individual panel outputs. You could see all kinds of stuff going on with your system. And now with the updated app, right? You have some ability, for example, to do some smart control of the inverter with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll take this one, Jim, again. Sorry. Absolutely. So with the homeowners app, they have the ability to not only, like you said, see what every single module is producing. The system owner, like even a home builder, could see those things if they wanted to.
Yeah.
You can restrict that view from the homeowner because sometimes too much information is
Right.
bad, right?
Or
So like
scare
yeah,
them.
you can change the information that the homeowner sees as you need. But additionally, to your point, yeah, they can tell their battery when to charge, when to discharge, what to do with it. Like I want it 50% of the capacity for backup in emergencies. And they can also turn on and off their smart loads. In my own home, I can see how much solar energy is going into my electric vehicle. So I know that I'm charging my EV with renewable energy. And so for me, that's hugely important, but it's not important to everybody, right? So, and I can also turn on and off loads. And a lot of those functions happen automatically. So when my system goes into backup, my air conditioner turns off, and the rest of my home is backed up, and it happens automatically.
We had a quick question from somebody. Can you define MPPT, one of you guys?
Yeah, sure. MPPT stands for Maximum Power Point Tracker. And if we were to plot it on a graph, one side is voltage and the bottom axis is current. And if you multiply those two things, you get power. And so, like, it's just a point on a curve. It's an algorithm that a inverter runs to define what is the most power coming out of a solar panel.
Okay. Let's do it like a little hypothetical. So I'm a builder. I don't currently install any solar. Maybe I'm not well versed in it, or I'm not just don't get it why you would bother, right? So give me the builders the pitch. Why would it be worth putting this in a new home or every new home from the ground up?
Do you want to start with that one, Jim?
Sure. Yeah, so first of all, in California, it's obviously mandated. So all of the builders are adding solar, and oftentimes maybe a builder wants to say, you know what, I want kind of the smallest system possible so I can save some money in the stack for a kitchen upgrade or a bathroom upgrade. And so, with SolarEdge, you can use as few as 6 modules, and you can use just an inverter. You don't have to put a battery on it, and that's a great starter system. And a lot of builders will offer that to their customer as like, here's your system. If you want to upgrade, you can and we have finance partners that can actually offload some of this financing for you. And then if the customer says, well, maybe I just want one battery, you can start with a 5 kilowatt hour battery. You can click in up to 20 kilowatt hours in a single stack. So, and then if you're in a development and, customers have sort of different needs, everybody has SolarEdge. So it's not like one customer has a certain technology and then the next door neighbor has a different technology and they're saying, hey, why didn't I get that? And in the future, if somebody wants to add a battery, they easily can. You can actually wire EV chargers directly into the inverter too if you don't want to pull more circuits. It basically just creates a lot of flexibility. But as far as the pitch to the homeowners that are not in California, I think we're just seeing customers wanting to be more in charge of their own energy, energy independence, energy security. It's all becoming a big topic, especially with this AI load growth, and you name it. So yeah, I feel like we've got some great
And I
offers,
feel like
wherever you sit in the stack.
sorry, I feel like the EV, growth of EVs is a major impact on this, right? Because we were chatting before the call about, isn't it nice driving on sunshine? Like, and I think but it's not just that, right? Because what a lot of people are discovering is they get the EV, but if they haven't got the power system and the home set up for it, it can be a very expensive transition. Like they may have to add another whole panel. It can be, four or five to $10,000 if they don't plan it out properly. So I think having that solar, the ability to inject that solar energy into your charging routine is a pretty big plus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Additionally, like with energy storage, like, yeah, my EV is with me at work at the office because I use it to drive into the
So you
office,
can't
right?
charge it
I
when you're at
can't
work, you're
charge
not
it.
charging. All right.
Exactly. So I have energy storage. So when I do go home, I can charge it from all the energy that I stored throughout the day in my battery pack and charge my EV that way.
That's a good point. I noticed also another feature I liked. I live in Florida, and one of the things about Florida is the builders never insulate the garages. So the garages get very, very hot. And where does your battery and your inverter end up? In the garage.
In the garage. Yeah.
And I noticed you have some special heat tolerance built into the system.
Yeah, absolutely. So the entire enclosure is made out of aluminum. It's a completely aluminum chassis. The reason we did that, one is for heat dissipation and its thermal characteristics and properties. We're able to cool the system very easily. And then two, it's very robust. It's a really nice, solid design. It looks great. It feels great when you're installing it and gives you the sense of quality and robustness. So that's what I really like about the aluminum enclosure. But also, additionally, there's provisions for cold weather climates too. And so we
Okay.
have the ability to keep the batteries warm. So if you're in Maine, Portland, Maine, or
Yep.
wherever, yeah, -4 degrees Fahrenheit, those batteries will continue to operate.
That's good. So it's sort of been, I'm sure that's one of those things over the years you sort of have thought through. It's like, oh yeah, we really need to make these, we really need to design these for different climate zones, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
talk about, different applications. Like, there's sort of the emergent, and you did touch on this a little bit, but from the emergency system, right, that just keeps, maybe it's one refrigerator on and your propane, heater that runs your propane furnace, or all the way up to the complete off-grid system. Like now, and maybe tie it in with this idea of this universe, the SKU thing that you're doing, which maybe you could explain what that is, where it's a single SKU.
Sure, sure,
Yep.
sure. So I'll take over single SKU, Jim, if that's
Yep.
okay with you. So what is a SKU? A SKU is just a part number. I think it's a stock keeping unit is what SKU stands for. And so it's just an inventory part number that SolarEdge uses with other distribution warehouse to identify what products are what. And when we developed a single SKU product, we said no matter what you buy, it's going to be the exact same inverter. Kind of like Mr. Ford with the Model T. If you can have it in black, you can have it in any color so long as you want it in black, right? And
Right.
so same thing. You can have any power class of inverter that you want so long as it's a 13 and a half. What's beautiful about the SKU and kind of how technology has evolved in inverters over the years is now we can control the amount of power that inverter outputs. So it can behave in a certain power classification while it's on grid. And then when it goes into backup mode, it can increase its power to 14 and a half kilowatts. And so that's what the single SKU does is it gives our installers a lot of flexibility. You don't have to worry about having the wrong part on the truck. Your service calls become easier. It's all the same. And
Yeah.
the benefit for SolarEdge is now we manufacture only one inverter. And because we don't have to retool part lines and change things out when we are manufacturing, now we can make a lower cost product because we only make one now, right? And it's much
Right.
simpler that way.
And I would assume that going forward, I mean, one of the things, everybody worries about is, oh no, will this become obsolete, right, in 5 years? So
Right.
does the company have like a strategy that says, we're gonna make everything going forward backward compatible with this system?
Yeah, we always keep backwards compatibility in mind when we develop new products. SolarEdge has been around for a while. I've been at the company for 11 years. We were
Yeah.
founded in 2006, I think, delivering products since 2010. And so, yes, we've been around for a while. All of our inverters have some level of backwards compatibility with all of our power optimizers that are on the roof now. So if you need to swap out any of our inverters, you could totally do that and not have to touch the roof.
When you're positioning, like there's a lot of inverters out there and a lot of, knockoffs from like, how do you, give me three things that you would say are your product, superiority aspects that you would pitch to, say, a builder. It's like, here's why you want to go with us, and make us your preferred inverter.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim? Do you want me to take it
Yeah,
or do you
maybe I'll
want
take
to?
that one. And Ken, if I miss one, please dive in. I think the first one is just highest efficiency. People install solar typically to save money, and so whether it's high power, low power, you name it, we have highest efficiency, which is going to drive the highest savings. The second one would be flexibility, not only in the battery stacks that are here, how many stacks you want to do, but also
Yeah.
in roof plans. If you have a small roof plan, you want to put a couple modules on it, you can put a
Yeah.
couple optimizers over there and bring them in.
Okay.
And really the last one is safety. Like SolarEdge, has been one of the most safe technologies, since its inception. We are on 50% of the Fortune 100 companies' roofs, so they choose us for those same reasons. Safety, high efficiency and savings, and flexibility.
Okay, I just got a question from Scott, I believe his last name's Santella. He was asking about support from installers and from SolarEdge, right? Say you got a problem. Now I know through the software you have sort of a cloud-based, if you want it, you can have sort of the bird's eye view, from the company too, right? So you can, would you be able to remote diagnose, or how would that work for somebody who's got a system and has a problem, needs some help?
Yeah, so we definitely call that know before you go.
Yeah,
And so the most costly expense for any installation company when they're servicing their equipment is that service department because they have to go to a site. Windshield time is a big cost factor. And so we want to limit the amount of windshield time installers experience. And so if they pull up the monitoring portal and they can chat or call SolarEdge or email SolarEdge or use our support portal. Like we have a lot of ways to get a hold of us. They can diagnose what the problem is and then know what they need to do before they go to the site. So they
right.
only have to roll that truck one time. And with single SKU, it becomes even easier because the cost of the inverter is so much lower. It is also easy, like this one inverter to replace everything, right? So
Yeah.
the installer can roll their truck with the single SKU inverter. If that's what the problem was, they can, take it off the wall. SolarEdge processes the RMA and replaces their inventory. So sorry that happened. Here's your, 12-year, 25-year warranty, whatever the problem may be.
Right. And I know, the builders are thinking too, like they don't really want to babysit any system on a house
Yeah.
once they walk away, right? So they want to feel confident that it's easy enough to understand for both the homeowner and the trade, maybe that's going to be the person that would do an installation. So once the build at the point when everything is installed, is there sort of like a check like that the builder would run to just make sure everything's working properly, that they can safely hand off to the new homeowner?
Yeah, sure. So, like, whenever the permission to operate is granted, so that's the utility saying, yes, you're allowed to operate this system, they can leave the system on and running. And I would even argue that that's a nice kind of validation checkpoint. A lot of homeowners, when they're waiting for their homes to be built, are like
Right.
stuck in limbo, like, what's happening with my house? And I know some builders are really great about, oh, we're putting up paint, we're doing
Yeah.
roofing, whatever it is. That's another thing you can give to the homeowner as a data point. Oh, your solar system is on and it's producing energy.
Up and running. Right.
Here's the information about your solar system, and you can see it running live. And
Yeah.
so, as a home builder, I think that's just another touch point to give your customers a great experience.
Right. Right. I think that's true. And I remember with your interface, it was always, good to be able to just check and see that it was working and literally get a granular, here's how much this panel's putting out. I also think, that with that high level of detail, it allows you to do things like evaluate different kinds of panels. Are my bifacial panels working better or my monofacial? A lot of details you can, if you're geeking out, right?
Yeah.
You get into that stuff. Um, so, where do you see in the U.S. market, like as you roll this out? And I think you said the product, like the Nexus product, both the batteries and the inverters are going to be ready in about June. Um,
Yeah.
what's going to be the first push? Are you going to just try to get people entry level? Are you going to try, or are you going to be pushing, like go all in and get the whole package, or where are you going with it?
It's a great question. So
Yeah.
we currently have more than 1,000 sites operating globally and more than a gigawatt hour of throughput. And here we
Yeah.
are in early March. We plan to GA the product in July. So we really want to test it in all kinds of harsh environments, a lot of backup, markets like Puerto Rico that have a lot of backup events, you name it, in the Northeast, Arizona, all that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
by the time we have sort of general availability, all you can eat in July, we're really happy to work with anybody. We do have a whole lot of safe harbor deals that we've done. We haven't been incredibly public about how much, but all of the third-party ownership companies typically have a position with us. So if you're working with the Sunruns, Enfins, Light Reaches, you name it, they should be able to help service you with Nexus right away. And if you're not, and you would like to, we're happy to connect you. Or if you have different financing, yeah, we still have allocations. Really, it's starting in May for
Okay.
customers that would like to go to Nexus. And we don't really care how many what size you use. It's not like we're only going big first. So if you
Right.
want to start small, we have the availability for that.
Another question from Scott about, he says, how much time does it take to commission a new PV and storage system? How does that work with a new home that may not actually be hooked up to the utility yet?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let's start off with our current product line. So our current offering, it takes roughly 45 to, I'm going to say on a long time, 90-minute commissioning. So that's like our firmware upgrades and programming everything to work correctly.
Okay.
For the Nexus system, the new one, that was one of our key areas of focus, and we really wanted to reduce commissioning time, and we found different ways to do that. So our target is no more than 15 minutes. But right now as Jim said, we are making a lot of lessons learned in this
Yeah.
initial 1,000 systems. So I'm going to be fully transparent. I have commissioned about 10 systems myself personally, and it has changed every single time.
Okay.
My best case scenario was 20 to 30 minutes. And
Yeah.
my worst case scenario was much, much, much longer than that. I don't want to even give you a number.
What do you
So,
think? What do you think makes the difference? Like, just from your anecdotally, the ones that were a little more complex, like what made them more complicated?
yeah. So the old ones, we used a different communication protocol called Modbus, and it was done over RS-45. And the speed at which you could send data over that communication protocol was a lot slower
Limited.
than we
Yeah.
can with our new protocol. So we use CAN bus now, which is a much faster communication
Okay.
protocol. And so
Yeah.
that was our biggest barrier. Additionally, there was a limit to how much memory our inverter could store on its communication card, and so we made it much more robust now. So that it was a twofold problem, and then the last piece of that is definitely how we commission the system using the SolarEdge Go app, which is how the installer connects to the inverter, commission it, and we wanted to make the process much smoother. So it's a commissioning wizard. So they just got to put in a couple buttons, and we program the inverter for them and upgrade all the firmware, and they don't have to worry about it. So
Yeah.
that's where we're going. Now, there's a second part to that question that I think is worth noting is
Sure. Yeah.
what happens when you don't have grid energy? Like,
Yeah.
how do you commission a system? Well, if a battery's connected, we have been looking at ways to be able to commission the system just from the DC energy that you've got available to you. It may not be
Nice.
connected to the grid, but
Yeah.
we have DC energy. So that is a roadmap item. And if you were
Okay.
to do it today, it would work. But yeah, that is something that we're actively working on.
In the works anyway. Yeah.
Yep.
Another interesting. I was reading through your documentation. Yeah, I do get that geeky, but I noticed some of your certifications. Like you have a UL 9540A. That's flood ready engineering, which I thought was interesting because I was thinking about living in Florida. A lot of people who are interested in solar, I think, are we have a lot of power outages, and when we get hit by hurricanes, sometimes the power's out for 10 days or 2 weeks. So it seems like you built some resilience specifically into the system, including, what does that mean, flood ready engineering?
Yeah. We support 18 inches of flood resistance. So
Okay.
if the batteries are designed to be floor mounted, and so if they're
Okay.
resting on your garage floor and you have that hurricane roll through, we
Yeah.
don't want your battery to get trashed. So up to 18 inches of standing water, we are flood resistant. And then beyond that, like you could wall mount the battery and get a little more height out of it if that was
Yeah.
a general concern.
Now, do you guys do you make the wall mounts as well?
Yeah. So it's just a
Okay.
bracket. It's an accessory bracket that we sell. Uh, Basically, it's like any TV. If you've mounted a TV to a wall, you can mount the battery to the wall. So it's ostensibly the same thing.
Right. I was just looking at some of the stats on the new system with it says 19.6 kilowatt hours for 4 blocks, right? So for some houses, that might be as high as they ever go. But you can go
Yeah,
quite a lot higher. Yep.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so when you get that full stack of four battery blocks, the rule of thumb is if you
Yep.
can look at this image over here, this little narrow block, we call that the Nexus link.
Okay.
and the inverter is limited to 4 links, and the link has a maximum capability of 4 battery blocks. So if each battery block is like 5 kWh, that's 20 per link, and 4 of those per inverter would be 80 per kilowatt hours per inverter, and then you
Yeah.
can have up to 3 inverters in backup. So that'd be 240 kilowatt hours in a
Wow.
backup
Yeah.
system. So really, from the very, like you said, the very small size, small home, single battery block, 5 kWh minimum, you could sell those upgrades all the way up to 240 kilowatt hours.
Yeah. If you're using that much power, then maybe you should have your own coal plant anyway, not solar.
Services
Um,
are getting bigger every day. Like I remember
right.
we're like 100 amps are the standard, then
Right.
200, and now we're seeing standard 400 amp service entrances on these new homes. And so
Because of the is honestly it's because of the two EV cars in the garage is what's doing it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And we have the solution ready for those EV
Yeah.
chargers.
Right. So explain to me what I know it's the inverter's really efficient, right? But most people may not know exactly what that means. Now, you claim a 92% round trip efficiency. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to take this one again, Jim? It's super technical, so I'm happy to
Okay,
answer
Please do.
no, give it to us. You can
it.
take it. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So round trip efficiency accounts for energy coming from the solar panels on the roof down to the battery. So into the battery is the DC source, and then out of the battery to be used by the home. That's what round trip efficiency is. And as Jim had mentioned, we are DC coupled. That means that the solar array and the battery sit on the same exact DC bus. And so
Yep.
we can go DC to DC and then out of the inverter one time. That would be 92% efficiency.
Nice.
So
Okay.
when you use other AC coupled solutions, you go from a DC source and you go through an inverter, which is AC, so DC to AC, and then you go into the battery. So you go AC
Yep.
back to DC, you store that energy, and then you want to use it, and then you go
Right.
DC back to AC. So you have 3 inversion points, and that just ruins your efficiency. So at the end of the
Yep.
day, like I know that's like efficiency this, efficiency that, conversions, whatever. At the end of the day, what it means to the homeowner, to the system owner, to the third party owner is it's more energy that is being used by the home.
I
So
love that. So one of the things that's a trend that's happening in the Southeast down where I live is that people are more interested than ever in di direct use of solar energy in their homes, rather
yeah,
because honestly, the utilities are terrible down here, and they basically they either give you scratch for it or essentially what kills you is more than half your bill are the service costs that you pay to the utility. So I actually think there's going to be a move towards more as soon as it's as soon as it seems safe, right? As soon as it seems
yeah,
doable towards going off grid, even in suburban areas. So I think it's really interesting that you guys are on top of that. Put the power back into your house immediately where you can use it. Is sort of ahead of the curve a little bit. So that's great.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to
Mike
I paid
just
a
let me know.
lot. Go ahead.
Sorry, Mike just let me go. We have a lot of audience questions sitting there.
Oh,
So
great.
why don't we take like 2 or 3 questions right now from Mike? Just pick a couple good ones and let's roll with those.
Sure, no problem at all. Yeah, a ton of interest, guys. So this is really cool. From a marketing perspective, let's talk about a marketing perspective. So we've got Luke with us, and he's a solar installer. And he and his company have started offering complete electrical wiring for home builders. They thought it was a great opportunity to basically electrify the home and to offer solar battery storage. The home builder's hesitant, not just because of roof warranty issues, but also the home builder doesn't really understand the value and the appeal to the homeowner. So Luke's wondering, do you have any pamphlets, brochures, any kind of marketing pieces that might help ease the worries of home builders?
Good point. Yeah. If you don't, we can help you make some.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point, and we can follow up with the audience afterwards with some of those things. Typically, we rely on our finance partners for that. So, most people either finance a system either directly or roll it into a leasing or a power purchase agreement. And oftentimes, with those finance products, there's no out of pocket, no upfront payment. So, if the customer is going to pay 20 cents a kilowatt hour from utility power, we have a lot of partners that can say, great, sign a contract with us, you'll pay 14 cents.
Ah,
And so you can save money day one. You don't have to worry about any of the maintenance. You mentioned roof leaks. These third-party owners can actually come out and deal with the roof leaks. Should there ever be one, I would say they're minimal at best. But yeah, and then if there's any sort of service that needs to happen, they can handle it. If the customer wants to upgrade, they can handle that as well. Typically, there's an override for the builder. So, by engaging with these folks, you can essentially offer solar without having to handle the financial hassle or the service hassle or whatever the perceived hurdle may be.
all right,
All
let me
right.
just throw that. Bob just asked, are you installing in all states? Can you just quickly answer that one?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have installations in every state, and we're actually have people in 33 countries, and we have installations in 110 countries. So we're definitely global, but yes, we're in all
Okay.
50 states.
All right, Mike, back over to you.
Yeah, Jim, you mentioned power purchase agreements, and Rosalie sent in a question along those lines, so I wanted to go ahead and address that. So Rosalie's developing a tiny home community that will produce 35% excess power. How difficult is it to wrap a PPA around that? And she's looking specifically to partner with NV Energy, which is a good friend of Green Builder Media's, but you do retail in all states, so how difficult is it to wrap a PPA around something like that?
It's a great question. So SolarEdge is one of the leaders in distributed power plants. So it's essentially batteries on site that the utilities can call on, and the utilities typically pay a customer for access to that energy. So I live here in Utah. Rocky Mountain Power has a program that pays between $2,000 and $3,000 per battery, and they're doing exactly what you're talking about. So solar energy during the day oftentimes isn't worth as much as solar energy around 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. because during the day there's a lot of utility scale solar, you name it. There's maybe not a lot of load on the grid. People aren't home running their air conditioners and stuff. So the utility can essentially pay a customer to be ready with that battery energy when they need it. They call on it, the customer makes money. So some of that 35% excess can be stored in a battery that has incentives. And just about every PPA provider we work with offers a similar program.
Nice.
Okay. Let me go to two more, Matt, then I'll take it back
Okay.
to you for more discussion.
Yep.
Net Naya had a question. He's attending from Long Island here, and utilities have switched to time of day rates. That's really interesting for those who have residential solar, but especially those that have battery storage options. However, what he's seeing is there's community pushback about fire risk with the battery storage in dense neighborhoods. So, any information you have on either new safety upgrades or any kind of issues with fire risk, do you have anything on that?
Yeah, sure. I can take this one. So first and foremost, as Jim had mentioned earlier, safety is really what SolarEdge founded its core technology on, is making sure we have the safest products possible. Uh, I sit on a lot of UL committees and code making panels where we basically discuss how to make sure that the batteries are safe. There's a test that we call a certification that is called UL 9540. And within that certification, there's a test called UL 9540A. And basically, we set a battery on fire to see what happens. And if that kind of thing interests you, I recommend you try to become a UL committee member. But anyway, I digress. The point of the test is to make sure that it's safe. So SolarEdge uses lithium iron phosphate in the Nexis solution. It's a energy dense battery that is also very safe. We wrap that around three core safety features. Number one is we have a feature that we call thermo shield, where there's insulative barriers between every single cell. So if a cell were to ever go into thermal runaway, it's it's near impossible for it to transmit that heat to an adjacent cell. So there's no way that can happen. The second thing we do is there's basically a battery optimizer in every single battery block, so we can see the state of health of every single battery. And then the last thing we do is that really robust aluminum enclosure protecting the entire solution. And part of the UL 9540A test is to make sure that if something does happen, how do you dissipate the heat or the flames? SolarEdge, our UL 9540A test report was very favorable. What that means is no flames exited the battery when we were able to cause a cell to go into thermal runaway. We were not able to get any cells adjacent to burn. And so we have what we call reduced spacing, which means we're allowed to stack batteries very closely. So without this reduced spacing, you'd have to keep batteries very far apart, and there's restrictions on where you could put them in a home. The short answer is you're never allowed to put a battery inside of a habitable space. So it's got to go in the garage or on the outside of the home. And with homes that are very close adjacent to one another, our design and other battery manufacturers also design the batteries to make sure that there's no heat getting out of that battery as best
Are
as
those
they can.
weatherproof assemblies? Like if they want to put them outside, they can mount them
Yes.
right up. Okay.
Yeah, NEMA 3R. So that again, flood,
Yeah,
18
yeah, the
inches of
flood
flood
thing.
resistant.
I was
Yeah.
going to mention, I think where this question may have come from is, social media again, but there's a lot of stuff on social media about especially e-bikes and stuff with lithium batteries, but I
Yeah.
don't think they're regulated especially closely. And if you
There
watch
you
the
go.
videos, they're horrifying, right? With batteries blowing up. One thing I would say, from builder's perspective too, I was just at the builder show. Like in my garage, I'm installing some fireproof or fire resistant panels just to be safe because I have e-bikes and I have, other stuff like that. And an electric vehicle could be a risk. And honestly, I feel like those are going to be a much higher risk than a wall mounted or a floor mounted, whole house system. It's the rogue stuff that you got to worry about. But there are like I think it's called FirePoint. You might want to look up. You can just basically slap it up on your wall and it gives you like another hour of fire rating. So
Yeah.
there's ways to preemptively, if you're concerned to protect yourself from the unknowns. Yeah.
Yeah, you can harden your home. Like there's an example
Right.
that I did where I put all my soffits underneath my eaves. I
Yeah.
used hardy board there to again fireproof my home because I live in California.
Yeah.
Additionally, you can put hardy board on the wall. There's other things you can do to make it more robust. And there's an interesting website. It's a UL website that identifies all the battery fires that have ever existed
Yeah.
and been reported and where they came from, what they were started by. And to date, knock on wood, not a single battery that has UL 9540 has caused a structure fire.
That's good. That's good. Now that's a great point. Why don't we take one more question, Mike? You got one?
Yeah, we'll take one more, then we'll come back to you. Don't
Yeah.
worry, there's other questions coming in. We'll
Yeah.
try and get to all of those too. So a question from our good friend Les out in Nevada. With some utilities now adding demand charges to residential service, are there controls to prevent high loads from running simultaneously over like a 15-minute period?
Yes, yeah. So just a demand charge algorithm that can essentially follow the load of your home, and you can pre-program that. Hey, I don't want my home to ever go above, this peak. We have current transformers that are actually built into the Islander device that Cameron talked about. So there's no
Okay.
external CTs required in terms of wire runs and geez, did I get the polarity right and all that. So based on that, we know what the load of the home is, what the solar production's doing, the energy state of the battery, and we can manage all that to make sure we can mitigate demand charges.
Are you guys, I'm sure you're aware of, the rise of smart panels, right? Like the span system. I think Siemens has one. There's other companies. So I just clarify for me, because I'm a little, fuzzy on it too, is where does the inverter stop and the smart panel begin, right? Which things does a smart panel do maybe that an inverter doesn't and vice versa?
Yeah, sure. So an inverter just provides energy to all of the home loads, right?
Yeah.
And the smart panel will tell you, will control those loads on an on and off behavior as to what to do with that energy. For example, if you're using a lot of energy and you don't want to hit your demand charge, they'll just start turning off appliances, right?
Yeah.
And as a homeowner, I don't want to be in the middle of like making dinner or whatever and just have like my electrical range turn off.
Yeah.
Like I need this on. I'm making dinner, right? So the difference here, it's more applicable smart panels like if you can provide excess energy. So when you're producing more energy, than what your home is consuming, maybe you actually want to turn on some loads. Maybe you want to
Right.
turn on your air conditioner and cool your house a little bit colder and use your house as a thermal battery, right? So those are the types of things that smart panels do that an inverter doesn't. And of course, we work with those smart devices to make sure that the customer has the best experience.
Right. So it's sort of the smart panel is really more about, prioritizing and maybe, it's going to allocate so many watts to your EV charging at this time of day. And, that's
Yeah.
getting down into the details of how the power is used and that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I think it's
Um,
smart panels are going to be more common as we go forward, especially with the 2023 NEC, which requires load control and energy management systems for shutting down loads when you go into backup, when you have a standalone system.
right. Because I mean, to be honest, we've been covering them since the inception of smart panels. And one of the things they've struggled with is trying to convince builders that a house needs a smart panel, right? And honestly, I think things like electric vehicles are, really turning their heads around where they're going, oh, if I don't do this electric vehicle, I've got to come up with if I don't do a smart panel here, I got to put another panel in or come up with another solution. So I think, like you said, and with the code changes, they're starting to move more into the mainstream,
Yep.
and that might be good. And honestly, in terms of working with the inverters, I think
Yeah.
all of that increases flexibility.
Yep.
So, just one other note I had was to talk about your cloud connected platform a little bit, right? And I had some notes on about, energy flow visualization. And we talked a little bit about like you can see where, which panels are producing and that kind of thing. Um, how might the builder benefit from this sort of heads up display, even during, installation and commissioning and even afterwards where they want to go back and check, how does that benefit sort of the tradesman or the builder who just wants to make sure everything was done right and it's working properly?
Yeah, so it's really just visibility into the system. There's cloud communication on site, either via cellular, so its own network, off, or you can connect it to a Wi-Fi. A builder can essentially have like an admin account and see their entire fleet, and maybe promote, use that to market what the builder's doing. This is how many customers we have. This is their
Yeah.
aggregated energy. This is how much savings we've driven. And then, oftentimes the customer will say, hey, my solar system isn't producing as much as I thought. What's going on? You can log in and see, well, geez, your demand's actually increased, 10%, 20%. Did you get an
Yeah.
EV? Or, his grandma now moved in and she's got the air conditioner running all the time, or did you get a
Right.
hot tub? And so that type of stuff just really gives you visibility into what the home is doing. And then if there ever is an issue of any kind, you have, immediate visibility. The cloud actually can send alerts as well, like, hey, this panel hasn't reported in a bit. Maybe it got hit by a golf ball and needs to be replaced. So it's basically just almost think of it as like a security system, but
Yeah.
instead of for your house, it's for your solar system.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Um, Mike, let's I think we're about to run out of time here. So let's make sure we get two or three more questions. I know we had a lot of questions. I want to make sure people feel like they got stuff answered.
Oh, definitely. And like I said in the chat,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to send in questions. If we don't get to all of them live, and we probably won't, we'll share those with both Cameron and Jim's for private follow-ups. So, okay, let's hit this one. Ryan had a question. Are all the loads in a home able to be dynamically turned on and off, or only selected loads?
Yeah, so if you have a smart panel, like a span panel or something like that, then yeah, you can dynamically control all of those loads. There's less sophisticated devices that are just like on or off, and
Yeah.
that is most commonly what I see. But the inverter will dynamically respond to what the what the programmed behavior is. For example, I'll give you a very simple one: maximize self-consumption, which is if there's a battery attached, the home uses whatever energy they use, excess solar energy charges the battery. When the battery is full, excess solar energy sells to the grid. When the sun starts to go down and there's not enough solar energy to power the house, we start discharging the battery, and that matches whatever the house is consuming. So that would be a dynamic mode of operation,
Yep.
and that'll carry you through to the next day where you get to rinse and repeat.
So I'm thinking through, like, you get a basic system, right? You get the Nexus, you just get the one battery, you get 4 kilowatt hours, and you want it just for your power backup, right? To run, and say we're going to run a refrigerator and a propane furnace.
Sure.
What you're going to do when that power goes out, you probably, if you don't, assuming you don't have a smart panel, you're just going to basically turn on those two circuits on your panel manually, and that'll be all that you're running, essentially, right?
Yeah. So the all the there's yeah. So you could do it two ways. You could leave everything on the same backup panel, the main distribution panel,
Yeah.
and we could back up that entire panel with a single battery. But
Okay.
the homeowner would be right. Like if they're trying to run everything, the inverter is going to give them a warning that says, "Hey, you're trying to use too much power. You need to reduce your power." And
Right.
the inverter has a unique feature where if the homeowner is using too much power, we very quickly abrupt power and then restore it, which turns off a lot of your loads. Like your microwave is a great example. If
Oh,
your
right.
microwave is running and experiences a power outage, it turns
Yeah.
off and then stays off and requires
Okay.
human intervention to turn back on. So we do
So
that to
how does it do that? Like, how is it sensing the microwave circuit, if you know what I mean? Is it kicking that circuit off on the panel, or how does that work?
there's a device that we call the Islander, the
Okay.
Nexus Islander, and that is installed behind the meter. And in that
Ah,
device, there is two current transformers that are measuring the current and voltage on the panel or anything that is downstream that it's protecting. And that is how we determine how much
ah.
energy to
Sort of like it's
provide.
similar to like the way they do the leak detection with algorithms kind of thing. A little
Yeah,
bit
exactly.
different technology, but it's the same idea. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, same idea. Yeah.
Good.
All right. Our
All right,
friend
Mike.
Eric's got a question. I think this is probably for Jim. He was looking for the 5 kW battery on the SolarEdge website. Is that something that's coming soon?
Yeah, so we listed it as a 4.9 kilowatts of usable energy, sorry, kilowatt hours of usable energy. We are going to have a variant that's going to be a dash O2 part number that is a true 5 kilowatt hour variant for customers in California, so you can get the JA12 certification under Title 24. There's a chance that we may just launch the dash O1 as a 5 kilowatt hour. Our R&D is trying to work on how we can either extract 5 kilowatt hours out of every unit or have a special unit for new home builders who need the true 5 kilowatt hours to get the incentive.
And just to remind the viewers, you said June, July, stuff will actually be available, right?
Correct. Yep. And the goal at GA is to have that unit available for new home builders. The folks we spoke with about this so far are very excited about it and very much pushing for that. We had an executive QBR yesterday. It was a topic on it and confirmed that it's going to be available for launch.
Cool. All right, let's take another one.
Yeah, Bill wanted to know if you've got things available for commercial or multifamily projects, and if so, can you clarify what are the key dates for earning investment tax credits for solar?
Maybe I'll speak to it a little bit, Cam, and you could back me up on the technical side. So, yes, right now we have units installed in multifamily locations. Emily and Michelle from our marketing team are on. They can put some application notes and marketing stuff about how we've deployed this. We've got projects with 400 and 500 batteries of our existing batteries working on multifamily sites. Uh, we can use them as single phase if you have single phase meters for specific units. And then they also work in a 208-volt three-phase configuration, not for backup, but for energy arbitrage. And so, yes, we actually have a lot of interest and deployments of that with our existing strategy. Nexus should be even more because of its modularity. The second piece was the tax credits. So the OBBB that happened last summer got rid of the tax credits for consumers. So if you just want to buy a solar system and install it, you can no longer get the investment tax credit, but they kept them live for commercial folks. And so, a Sunrun, a Good Leap, Everbright, LightReach, all the different third-party ownership structures out there, they have commercial operations. They can take advantage of not only the 30% investment tax credit, another 10% bonus tax credit because our stuff is now made in the US. We've onshored nearly 3,000 jobs, hardworking Americans that are now making our inverters, optimizers, and batteries in Texas, Florida, and Utah. And then you can even get an extra 10%, so 50% off price tag if it's an energy community. And we're happy to put you in touch with anybody who can help you take advantage of those tax credits.
All
Um,
right.
Somebody was asking about the mounting. I know I mentioned mounting systems for the batteries. Maybe Michelle or Emily, if you have a photo or a link to some place where you can just stick it in the chat, maybe people can go and see what the mounting system looks like.
Yeah. So yeah, just two options. One is floor mounted and the other is wall mounted. So
And they're
yes.
just basically a bracket system. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Now you do I suppose you could do if you wanted to some kind of rolling rack, or does it have to be not that you'd be able to roll very far, but you could do whatever you wanted, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess in theory, like if you were
Yeah.
gonna get, I'm
Gonna
gonna
move
say
around.
in my lab, yes, I would do
Yeah.
something like that. But
Yeah.
in my own home, my batteries are mounted on the ground.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let's see. We're at 2:55. We got probably time for maybe two, maybe three more questions.
That's fine. Yeah, I got plenty of them. So we talked before about commissioning time, but Ryan was wanting to know how does the new stacked design affect installation times?
Oh yeah, man. Installation time. So here's the big question that everyone has. When you have a giant monolithic battery, a giant battery, the conventional thought is I can move this battery into position and boom, it's done. All I have to do is connect by wires and it's great. With a modular approach, there's always concern about, okay, I have to now stack each module in place and then connect the wires, and then it takes longer. The SolarEdge Nexis system has what we call simple click architecture, and basically the batteries click into place with a mechanical connection, and there's a quick connector between the battery blocks and the inverter and the link and all those things. And so not only is it making your electrical connections, it's making your communication connections as well. So just the act of stacking a battery completes all of your wiring. All the wiring is internal. You don't have to do anything to bolster the installation. So once you get your first battery in place, you click, 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 all the next pieces into place, bolt it to the wall, and then you're ready for wiring.
How turnkey is that? So it's to say you drop in, you got one battery, you drop two more on like Lego blocks, click, click, right?
Yep,
Um,
exactly. That was our
what's
design
what's
philosophy.
what's my commissioning process at that point? What do I have to do to add those two batteries in?
Yeah, so once you get so you stack click click two batteries
Yeah,
and then you put
yeah,
your link on top. The link will immediately validate that all the batteries in the stack are good and you'll see LEDs turn on. And
okay,
then you put your inverter on top, and the inverter, once you get AC power right now, once you get AC power to the inverter, you scan the inverter with your phone and then you can commission the system.
nice.
So it's the wizard will walk you through it. And again, best case scenario right now that I've seen is about 20 minutes. So it
And
depends
like you
on
said, it talks you through. The wizard
yeah,
talks you through. Yeah,
yeah. It's
yeah,
very simple. Very
cool.
simple.
Yeah.
Uh, we see this sometimes with heat pumps, this kind of question on temperature. So I wanted to talk about it from the standpoint of solar storage, and that is Doug's asking, can you talk a little about the efficiency related to when the outside temperatures get outside of the range of 0 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit?
Yeah, sure. So as we know, batteries really, especially lithium ion batteries, really don't like cold weather. All right. As batteries get very cold, they hurt their cycle life on a chemical level. So what SolarEdge has done to protect that is we have resistive heating mats installed between the layers of cells. So that way, when it starts to get really cold, we can warm up the batteries with these resistive heating mats. Additionally, when a battery starts operating, when it starts charging or discharging, it's heating itself. And so the resistive heating mat turns on at a certain temperature, and then the battery will start operating, and then the battery will maintain its own health or heat level as it's being operated. The efficiency as the battery warms up, there's definitely a sweet spot. If it gets too hot, heat is a big resistor, right? And if it gets too hot, also the efficiency starts to drop. So ideally, like if we could all live in 70-degree weather and have the most efficient system in the world, that's what we'd be doing. But at low power thresholds, SolarEdge is the most efficient product available on the market just because of how we control our battery discharge behaviors. And I'd say power and the amount of energy that your home is using has a bigger impact on efficiency than temperature does.
So to clarify, so that resistance, Matt, is that running off the AC? Is that running off the grid? When you got a little bit of power flowing through, right, to keep the battery cells a little warm, or can it cannibalize itself? Can it run off the batteries?
Yeah. So we don't want it to run exclusively off the grid because what if
Right.
the grid goes down, right?
Right.
So yes, it's using its own internal mechanisms to turn that resistive heater on when it needs it.
Cool. Cool.
All right.
Let's take one more question. I think we've done well here, Mike. Give us a good one.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Cameron geek out a little bit here.
Ooh.
This one's from William. He says, with many devices being DC, what remains or what's left for homes to just be built 100% DC?
I mean, that's a great question, right? And so, like, we think about everything we're using. Like in my own home, every single one of my devices is DC. Like my cell phone is DC, my laptop, my TV, everything we install in our home, every consumer electronic is DC. So, what is stopping us from making DC homes? And really, it comes down to infrastructure. And as Americans, we have standardized on uh, distributed generation, where we have a big power plant somewhere and we distribute that energy all the way across the desert or the mountains or the forest or wherever to our individual homes. And it's easier to send AC energy long distances than it is DC energy. And so who knows, 30 years from now, we could all have our own DC power plants on our own houses. And then it makes sense to make DC energy and have a DC home. So it's the only thing that's stopping us is our own imaginations at that point, I guess.
Well, I remember back 25, 30 years ago when I got started, there were articles coming out about how you should wire your house for DC as well as AC. But I think
Yeah.
not many people actually did it because it got pretty expensive fast.
It was like those old RV outlets, like you'd see like that cigarette outlet, like just on the side of a wall. Like I
Yeah.
remember those, yeah.
But if you look at RVs, look at, mobile housing, a lot of them do have dual. They have AC and DC wiring. They have for years. Only
Yeah.
they've switched over now. Everything's a USB port. You
Yeah.
don't have 9-volt ports anymore. So
Yeah.
it's theoretically possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, guys, I think that was great. Mike, why don't you wrap us up and we'll let any other questions we'll hand off to these guys and maybe they can email and communicate that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there were
Matt.
only just a couple of questions
Yeah.
that we didn't get to, and I've got them down, so we'll get those to our guests. And thank you very much, not just to Matt for leading the discussion today, but our panelists and our audience as well. As always, you came through with wonderful questions. We really do appreciate it. And thank you to SolarEdge for their generous sponsorship of today's webinar. Our next webinar is going to take place in 2 weeks. It's going to be on March 18th. We'll be joined by our friends at Panasonic. So we'll start at our usual time of 2 p.m. Eastern time. And hey, don't forget that in most places anyway, the clocks move forward 1 hour on Sunday. So don't forget to change those out. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and take care, everyone. So long.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.